Welcome to Mercy Volunteer Corps' live frequently asked questions about serving as a United States-based Mercy volunteer and the overall Mercy Volunteer Corps experience. Tonight, we're joined by a current Mercy volunteer, Faith. She is serving at Mercy Medical Center in Baltimore, Maryland. Don't forget, if you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. Faith, can you introduce yourself, talk about where you're from, where you went to school, a little bit about yourself?
Hi everyone. My name's Faith. Like Luke said, sorry I sound kind of nasally. I'm battling a cold. I'm from small town Nebraska. My town is a little less than 3,000 people, and we have one stoplight. And now I'm in Baltimore, which is a massive city. I went to college in Omaha, Nebraska, at College of St. Mary, which is a Mercy college, meaning it's ran by the Sisters of Mercy. And I just graduated this past May with a degree in biology. And now I'm here in Baltimore. It's been great.
Thanks. And I know I mentioned a little bit earlier, but could you talk more about your role and duties at your service site, Mercy Medical Center?
Yeah. So I work at Mercy Medical Center, which is a big hospital here in Baltimore. I'm in two departments. I work in the quality department and population health departments, which are very different. But the quality department, I say I'm making sure everyone gets like the quality care they deserve. And so in a way, like I'm standing up for the sick and vulnerable populations, in that sense. But for the quality department, I do a number of audits from an infection control and prevention standpoint. I'm also a patient advocate. So if patients ever like need any special services or even just like a drink or a snack or whatever, I can kind of work that out with their nurse and just visit with them and make sure that they're comfortable in their room and they're being heard by their care team. And then in the population department, um, population health like fills in the gaps of healthcare for underprivileged populations. So we have a lot of different projects happening. One thing I do weekly is we have a low cost produce market because we're in the middle of a food desert. So I help sell the produce. It's really fun. And everyone's always super excited about the different produce we have. Today we had bananas and everyone was going bananas. Um, I also will make phone calls and invite patients to different like cooking classes and nutrition classes that we have, which are really fun. We have this awesome testing kitchen that we can cook in, and there's like a camera on top of the ceiling so you can like see the people what they're doing below. Um, and also like organizing rides for people to and from appointments that don't have transportation. And what else? Population health it's really cool. It's an up and coming department. It's growing in Baltimore at Mercy as well as around the country. But it's very special.
I mean, and so it sounds like you really just kind of do a lot of different things at the hospital setting, but really basically serving those who are sick and may not be able to, help themselves. And I think for MVC, it's really about serving alongside, kind of compassionate service. And so through these experiences so far in your year, how do you feel like that's impacted you in your personal life, in your professional life?
I would say I always thought I never really not that I couldn't relate to compassionate service, but I really didn't comprehend what that meant. Like I couldn't give a good definition of what that means. But especially in my role as a patient advocate, one thing I've learned for sure is like that compassion is in small gestures. It doesn't have to be something like so big as like going on a mission. It can just be in your everyday life. Um, so for example, like a while back, I was visiting a patient asking if all of his needs were met, and he asked for a cup of water. And so I went out of his room to go grab a cup of water. And by the time that I got back to his room, there was someone from another department working with this patient. So I left the cup of water on his table and I just left the room. And then a few minutes later, the person that was in the room when I dropped the water back off, she had found me in the hallway and she's like, "Hey, I saw you drop off that cup of water with this patient." She said, "You should go back and make sure he doesn't need any help getting the cup of water to his mouth because he's very weak." And so I went back in there and I was like, "Hey, do you need any help getting a drink of water? I brought that cup of water for you just a few minutes ago." And he said, "Yeah, like, please help me." And so I held the cup up to his mouth and he drank the entire cup of water. He must have been so thirsty. And it just really stuck with me ever since. And to me, like, it was just that small gesture of like, I could have just asked him, like, "Do you need any help?" And he could have said, "Yeah, I need help getting this cup of water to my mouth." Um, but like in that moment, I felt like I was like serving Jesus in another person. And that's when I understood like compassion is just kind of slowing down and being present with another person, um, giving them your full attention. And maybe I would have noticed if I just had, slowed down, could have noticed that he didn't have the strength to drink the water himself. Um, and so that's definitely affected my personal life, in that way of finally understanding compassion and trying to live that out in other aspects now outside of the hospital. And then professionally, I feel like I want to work in healthcare. So I think compassion is like going to be my future. And in future job interviews and stuff, they'll ask me like, "Oh, how do you show your compassion?" Um, and I would just say like being like a volunteer in the hospital, and I know that I'm doing working in the hospital for the right reasons. I'm not in it like right now for the money. Um, I'm doing it because it does bring me joy, like helping others gives me energy. And even though some days can be really long and really hard, um, I just know it's where I'm supposed to be. So I know that in the future, like I have the compassion to be a healthcare worker. Um, so that's been helping me professionally too, because I have confidence in my future career path.
Yeah, I thank you for sharing those amazing stories and kind of what has stuck with you. That's one of the really important things. I think, as you mentioned, kind of not really comprehending. It's like, oh, what does compassionate service mean? But then actually like living it and living through it. So thanks for talking about that. So in other aspects, I mean, you mentioned that you volunteer in Baltimore. Can you talk more about that and maybe, living in community with your fellow volunteer?
Yeah, Baltimore's been really great. Um, I never imagined I would live here in Baltimore or like close to the East Coast ever. So it's really fun. I was just when I signed up for Mercy Volunteer Corps and chose Mercy Volunteer Corps, it came down to a few different cities that I could potentially be placed in. Um, and it's just weird because I knew that it was going to be Baltimore. There was just weird signs. Like my dad started collecting Baltimore Orioles like baseball stuff. And so, anyways, I know that I'm where I'm supposed to be here in Baltimore, and I really enjoy my community. My roommate is wonderful. She's awesome. She also works in the same hospital that I'm in. She's in the pastoral care department. We get along really well. We went to the movies last night, and we just have a lot of fun doing like simple things like going on walks or doing yoga, sitting on the couch and reading different books. Um, so that's been really fun, my community. Um, and we also have a support group. So there's three members of my support group. And I feel super comfortable. Like anytime I see any of them, I give them a huge hug and I just feel like I'm home, like so far away from home, but I feel like very happy and calm when I'm with them. And they're very thoughtful and reaching out and inviting me over for dinner and on camping trips and things like that. So that's been fun. Um, building those relationships.
Yeah, I know that the Baltimore support team is very close. A lot
Mhm.
of them former volunteers or having, other aspects of mercy in their lives. You mentioned earlier about building that community. with your fellow volunteer, but are there intentional ways you do that? Are there kind of like methods or practices to kind of help you all build a relationship?
Oh yeah. Um, for sure. One of the biggest ways that me and Silvana like, I mean, we've clicked ever since the beginning, but we knew that we could like be more intentional about our like community and our living situation. So one way that we've grown is like giving up our phones at the kitchen table. So if either of us is sitting at the kitchen table, like when we're eating breakfast or dinner at night, we stay away from our phones so that we're like openly communicating and talking about how our days are going. Another thing we do is we carpool a bit to save money, but also it's fun to like start our mornings together, listening to music and just chatting. And then about once a month, we meet up with the Mercy Volunteer Corps member in New York City, and we have a community night. So we all take turns leading on a lesson on a different topic relating to mercy, like hospitality or the earth. And that's really fun, just getting to catch up with one another, expand our understanding of mercy, and grow with one another. So it's been a really really good support that I have from my roommate and everyone around me.
Nice. So in addition to community, spiritual growth is kind of one of those important aspects of the volunteer experience. And I know that can vary across the communities. And so for yourself, how has spiritual growth been an aspect in your volunteer experience?
Um, Spiritual growth ever since like attending orientation back in August. I never really understood what it meant to like what it meant by spirituality, but I finally understand it because we all come from different backgrounds. And so there's a lot of diversity there. So I'm learning a lot. Um, I guess the biggest way that I'm growing in spirituality is that my roommate wants to potentially join a religious order as a sister. And so it's just really inspirational to like see what that journey is like for her and like how faithful she is. And we're both the same, we're both Catholic, so we have a lot of strength together in our faith, but also there's other religions represented by Mercy Volunteer Corps. So it's been fun getting to learn from other people and what their religion means to them and how they can practice that through like yoga or drawing or meditation. Yoga's been really fun. Me and Silvana do some yoga together, my roommate. So just trying to expand my horizons because I would say I thought spirituality was just going to church, but it's so much more than that. The opportunities are endless. So it's fun getting to learn more.
Thanks. And I know that you talked a little bit earlier about the support team, and really, I think through the experience, you meet, like you're on that call with a New York City volunteer. You have your service site coworkers, that local support team, alumni, sisters. So the Mercy world, I think, is vast. And so, in your experience, what have been the gifts in connecting with that larger Mercy world?
There have been so many gifts. I've made so many friends. It's gonna be so hard to leave um at the end of my year in July. And so many people have tried to talk me into staying forever. They don't want me to leave, my coworkers and stuff. Um, but I guess the gifts are like happiness is when you're with other people. And so I have a lot of friends out at the hospital and just one thing that we do, we signed up for a kickball league, me and my coworkers. And so we had a weekly kickball league that was so much fun. And then that evolved into a soccer league. And now we're going to play volleyball this spring. So making a lot of memories. Um, I have, who else? There's some Mercy Volunteer Corps alumni in town uh, that are just fun to catch up with and cat sit for them. And what else? I guess they're kind of showing me the ropes of the city, like showing me around different parts of Baltimore. and that's just making my experience so much better. Keeping me out of the house, I guess, as often enough, giving me lots of things to do.
And you really just going throughout your year, is there something that you'll kind of take with you so far that you're just like, I'm going to remember this for the rest of my life, kind of thing?
Um, I guess, oh gosh, that's a hard question. I'm gonna take so much away. Like, I can't just narrow it down to one thing. I guess I have a lot of, I think professionally, I've probably grown the most. Um, I just have a funny story that came to my mind. But I played hooky from work because the weather was really bad and there was just a lot going on. It's really recent. And I felt so bad. And so I know in the future I would never miss work. Like I'm much more professional now. Granted, the situations were allowed for it, but just my form of communication has definitely improved. And I feel more confident about the future and becoming a healthcare professional someday. So that'll stick with me.
That's a great story. One of those things we love to learn early on.
You learn
Uh,
from, I didn't get, yeah, you learn.
you learn. Yes, definitely. And so really for, I guess, going through your volunteer year, for someone who may not know if a year of service is right for them, what advice do you have someone who's considering this type of opportunity?
I would say give it a chance, and view it as an opportunity for adventure. You never know who you might meet or, any opportunities for networking or, discovering a different career path or city that's just meant for you. So just give it a chance. It's just a year.
Well, thank you, Faith, for taking the time tonight to share your Mercy volunteer experience. And thanks to everyone who tuned into the live stream tonight. We're currently accepting applications for service starting in August of this year. We just passed our priority deadline, but it's not too late to submit your application since we accept them on a rolling basis until all the positions are filled. And so click the link in the description or visit our website at mercyvolunteers.org/apply to get started. If you have any questions or want to connect with a Mercy volunteer, feel free to reach out to us at recruitment@mercyvolunteers.org. I just again want to thank everyone for tuning in tonight and have a great one.
Thanks, guys.